Welcome to EDHisLIFE. My name is Rick Anthony, and today we have your complete guide to Infect in Commander. What is Infect? Infect is a keyword ability that replaces the damage a creature deals to other creatures with -1/-1 counters, and to players in the form of poison counters. If a player reaches 10 poison counters, they lose the game. So what are some of the advantages of playing Infect? Instead of dealing 40 damage to each opponent, we only need a quarter of that damage to knock out a player with Infect. Infect can be a very fun strategy with varying difficulty levels on how a deck is piloted. If you are looking for a challenge, Infect is an incredibly difficult strategy to kill an entire table with. So when you do infect the table out, it truly is an achievement unlocked. What are some of the disadvantages of playing Infect? The strategy is very telegraphed. There really isn't much surprise factor here. Infect is a very linear strategy, games often ending in the exact same way each time. Because Infect was only featured in the new Ferexian block, the card pool is somewhat limited. In 1v1 formats, you can use 4 copies of the good Infect creatures, where in Commander, we have to scrape the bottom of the barrel, so to speak, just to get a high enough density of Infectors. Because we are a creature-based strategy, it is very easy to stop us. An Infect deck will often fold to a single board wipe and not be able to rebuild after. We can often kill 1 to 2 players at the table, but by the time it comes to the third player, we have ran out of resources and often fold to that player. What are the main types of Infect strategies? There are 3 types of Infect strategies we often see in Commander. The first is aggressive combat-based strategies with commanders like Saskia the Unyielding. Aggressive strategies tend to attack with multiple Infect creatures and kill their opponents as fast as possible before they run out of steam. The second is passive, or gradual Infect strategies. Passive Infect strategies tend to try and get a poison counter on each of their opponents, and then use effects like Proliferate to slowly kill them. Atraxa Praetor's Voice is a great example of this because she has Proliferate stapled onto her in the command zone. The third type isn't a dedicated strategy, and I'm going to dub these finisher effects. Using cards like Triumph of the Horde to give all your creatures Infect can pull off an Infect kill. Also, surprise tricks like Tainted Strike on a high-powered creature, either yours or your opponent's, can surprise someone and kill an opponent in one shot. That's right, you can use Tainted Strike on an opponent's creature and make them do your dirty work for you. Grafted Exoskeleton also accomplishes the same thing in passive damage decks, like Nekusar and Niv-Mizzet Perrin, to close out a game quickly. So what do Infect decks need to succeed? Part 1. Pump effects. Because Infect creatures generally have smaller bodies, they need pump effects to increase their damage output and kill our opponents quicker. Equipment can be a great inclusion, especially since it can grant evasion and protection to your Infectors, giving them an easier path to get damage in. Equipment also stick around if our Infect creatures were to die, ready to be equipped to the next creature in our army. Auras can also be a great way to pump our creatures, granting huge power/toughness increases. Auras can also grant the same evasion and protection equipment offer at a lower mana cost, but unlike equipment, auras do not stay on the battlefield when our creatures die, leaving us open to a feel-bad 2-for-1. Instant speed pump effects are another great option, but because these are one-and-done effects that don't stick with our creatures, we tend to run out of gas very quickly. Mutate is a relatively new mechanic that grants a large pump to our creatures for a low mana investment. Mutate also can lead to 2-for-1 blowouts if a mutated creature is to be removed. This last one is my favorite. When Kaldheim was released, Ferexian became an official creature type, and shortly after, 224 creatures were given an errata to become Ferexian. So if you have an Infect deck, tribal synergies and payoffs can help, since all creatures with Infect are Ferexian as well. Things like Shared Animosity can pump your attackers by a large amount by simply attacking with more creatures with Infect. Obelisk of Erd is another great pump effect, choosing Ferexian to pump +2/+2, and also has a cost reduction in the form of Convoke. Reflections of Lake Yara also give you copies of your Infect creatures when you cast them. Any Select a Tribe effects work great here, and should definitely be considered in your Infect deck. What do Infect decks need to be successful? Part 2. Protection. Because Infect is a largely creature-based strategy, board wipes and single target removal can really ruin our day. Cards like Teferi's Protection, Eerie Interlude, Boros Charm, or Heroic Intervention can protect our entire board from a board wipe. We can also use things like Faith's Reward to bring back everything that was destroyed, making white an excellent support color. Part 3. Recursion. Our creatures are going to die, be it from removal, board wipes, or even combat. Because of this, we need Recursion, making black a great primary color for Infect strategies. We can bring creatures back one at a time with things like Reanimate effects. We can also use mass recursion effects like Rise of the Dark Realms or Patriarch's Bidding. Part 4. Proliferate. Even if you are playing an aggressive Infect deck, Proliferate can be a huge advantage. Evolution Sage does this with landfall triggers. Karn's Bastion itself is a land with Proliferate, and Inexorable Tide proliferates whenever we cast a spell. Take home. Infect can be a fun strategy to play in Commander, but is very difficult to take down a whole table with a dedicated Infect strategy. Because Infect makes players salty, you may become the archenemy of the table. Be prepared to be the target, even when you aren't the threat. If you are looking for a challenge, Infect might be a strategy for you to try in Commander.
We hope you enjoyed the video. You can help the channel grow by hitting the like, follow, subscribe buttons. Sharing our content helps a lot too. See you next time.